All right.
So, if you would you please introduce yourself?
My name is Bobby Greene, Jr. I got 6 brothers and sisters. I'm married, and I got 2 beautiful daughters. I grew up in Niagara Falls at 700 101st Street on top of the Love Canal. And how much fun that was.
What did your house look like there?
In my memory, not to my siblings' memory, it was a 3-level house. We had a basement, a living area, and the bedrooms on the top floor. And it was, my recollection, it was green, and then it was gray.
How many rooms were in the house?
Are we talking bedrooms or rooms all together? Because I can count the basement as one big room.
Just describe to me what the house and the layout was.
We had a basement, which was one big room with a big furnace in the back. And on the second floor, it was a living room, kitchen, dining room, spare bedroom. And then the top floor had 3 bedrooms, a cubby hole, and a big ass closet with no doors.
What did your yard look like?
A yard. It looked like a yard. Not a very big yard. It was a probably 200, 300 foot front yard, a long side yard that was only wide enough to push the mower down maybe 4 times. And then the backyard was typical backyard with a garage in the back. And then behind that was nothing but one big black field. I mean black because the water was always black.
Who lived there with you, and how long did you live there?
Well, we lived there 16 when I left, and we had to move in when I was, recollection, 5, 6 years old. So, do the math.
Okay. And who lived there with you?
Oh my God, I can't remember all my siblings' names. There's so many of them. That would have been my mom. Do I need you to give her name? I'm not giving you Beth's name. She was my mom. And of course, I'm a junior, so that made my dad Bob, my dad. Then there was Penny the oldest. Then there was me. Then there was Lori, a year younger than me. Jack, a year younger than her. No, James, a year younger than her. Then there was Suzanne, who was 7 years younger than me. And Jack, the baby, was 10 years younger than me. So, then we had an uncle that lived with us. And that's all that, when we moved, that's all of them.
Did anybody else move in later?
No, we moved out when I was 16.
Okay.
But I had my grandmother Greene who lived with us for a while. But she died when we were still young.
Okay.
It was a pretty good sized house.
Did you fight with your siblings?
Who didn't? Everybody fought with my siblings. Of course I did.
What did you guys fight over?
Being siblings.
Did you have any family that lived close?
I had my mom's sister and her family that lived like 4 blocks from us on the canal. It was like a housing project.
Where did you go to school, and what was it like?
Where did I go to school? Which time? Elementary school? Senior high school? Junior high school?
When you lived there?
Well, the elementary school was 99th Street Elementary, which on top of the Love Canal, right in the middle of everything. Then I went to LaSalle Junior, and then I went to LaSalle Senior, which is closed. And the fun part was, we had to walk. We didn't have these damn things they call snow days now. I did not know what a snow day was until we moved here. And we get a half an inch of snow on the ground, and my mama says, no school today. Well, why? Well, it's a snow day. Well, what the hell's a snow day? Well, you don't have to go to school because there's snow on the ground. That's snow? That ain't the snow we knew. Oh, hell no. We're talking feet. This is inches, and they close the schools. That's the best part about coming up here.
Did you like school?
No,
Why?
because they try to make you learn. The one thing I liked about it was the girls. You want the truth? That's the truth.
Who were your friends at school?
You know what? I left when I was 16. I'm 56 now. And I can't recall. I don't. I got 3 names, the Hoffmans. That's it. Other than that, I can't remember anybody from down there. That's the Coils, but they didn't go to school with us.
Or who were some of your friends in the neighborhood?
Oh, the Coils, the Tuppers, the Fetters. Oh, that's just the ones at the top of my head.
Did you have a girlfriend in school?
Not in school.
What did you guys do for fun in the summer?
We played in the street. We played in that big field out behind us, which in the wintertime was a swamp. And I think I'll leave that one out.
What did you play?
Kickball, hockey. Stood on the street corners a lot. Hell, it's New York. Who did stand on the street corners?
What did you guys do for fun in the winter?
Oh, good God, you're going to get me in trouble with this one. We used to get on the back of cars and buses and ride the bumpers down the street. That's what we did for fun in the wintertime. Outside of building forts and stuff like that, that's the most fun.
Did you guys ever ice skate or things like that in the
Oh,
winter?
yeah. Forgot about that, but yes, we did. We had a park. Matter of fact, that's where we learned to ice skate. It was Hyde Park. And they had an ice skating rink over there. We learned to ice skate over there, but we also went to church. And during church, they would, like, on weekends, once or twice a month, roller skating parties in the summertime. Those were a lot of fun.
Out of your siblings, who did you spend the most time with growing up?
I would have to say that would have been James.
What did you two do for fun?
We just hung out a lot together. We used to play this game, it was called Knife. And what it was, you would get a knife. And you sit on the ground, and you take that knife, and you would start on your thumb, and you would flip it. And if it stuck in the ground, you went to your finger. And you kept flipping that until you missed, it was the other person's turn, and they would start. You get to the point, you start on your thumb, you went to your knees, your chin, your nose, your head.
Did you have a job
Yes,
when
we
you
used
lived?
to do that behind the trees in front of the Coils' house. As a matter of fact, I think the Coils are the ones that taught. You're going to hear this name a lot. The Coils. They were our best friends. Okay, they lived right across the street. Their mama was basically our aunt. That's how close we were.
Did you have a job while you
I
lived
delivered
there?
papers. I started when I was, I'd have to say, 12, 13. I took it over from the Coils. And it was just we just delivered papers. Which was fun. You had to do them in the rain too. My mom used to drive us around what she could in the rain and like that. But other than that, I either walked or rode the bicycle. But that was our means of transportation back in the day.
What did your parents do for a living?
Worked. Grandpa was a mechanic. My dad was a mechanic. My mom was a school bus driver. Don't ever get caught riding the back of her bus, especially if you're her son, which she never did.
What is your earliest memory living there?
My earliest memories of living there. I'm 56 years old. My memory is as good as it used to be. What did I just say? I have to say walking to school. That's what we did. We didn't. We lived in. We went to school on the elementary school that was so close to the house. We didn't take a bus. We walked. Even if it snowed.
Who taught you to ride a bike or to cross the street?
That would have been my mom and the neighbor lady. Riding a bicycle wasn't so hard. Crossing the street, now that was the hardest. That was, you get down in that street, and if you did not look and they caught you, you would have to walk back and forth across that street, stopping, which is 50 feet wide. Wide enough for 2 cars. 100 and some odd damn times. And if you didn't look one time, add another 100 times to it. That was my mom and Mrs. Coyle. I said you're going to hear the Coyles a lot.
Were there any historical events that you remember happening while you lived there?
It depends on what you want to call historical. To me, historical was my Little League game. Or my Boy Scout game. Which I played Little League. And I was a pitcher. And I was a catcher. And I pitched a no-hit game one time. And I was supposed to go to the All-Star game. But I couldn't go to the All-Star game because my grandma Greene died. Which devastated me for life. And then I was a Cub Scouts. First time going to Boy Scout camp. So I just got to Boy Scouts, supposed to go to Boy Scout camp. And I'm looking forward to it and everything else. Could not go. Grandma Mulligan died. And I'll tell you what, I was so grateful I only had 2 grandmothers. So to me that was historical. Other than that, no, we had the falls and everything else, but to me that was nothing historical. Matter of fact, you know what? Are we living there? I think we owned 12, 13 years we lived there, that I lived there. We might have visited the falls twice, and it was like 30 miles from the house.
Did you ever go to Canada while you lived there?
Not that often. We went to the falls every night, like I said, a few times, but never, Canada, no. Not until after I left and went back. Who wants to go to a foreign country?
Do you remember hearing about the initial reports of Love Canal or remembering the first time you found out?
Yeah. I just remember there was a lot of uproar and a lot of chaos. And then following that was a lot of public meetings and protest and everything else. That was the early parts of it.
How did your parents or your family respond?
Not too happy. I mean, who would be? Especially then, they had a lot of cancer and stuff like that nobody ever reported it until it started coming up to the ground and they actually brought it to everybody's attention. What happened was there was this guy, his name was James Love. He tried to build a canal through the Niagara River and I think to Lake Erie, and he went bankrupt. And when he just disappeared. Nobody ever seen or heard from him again. This is what I know. And then when he did, Hooker Chemicals, and then the U.S. Army took this big canal that he was digging and filled it in with nothing but chemicals. Then they buried it. And I don't know how long ago. In my recollection, if I had to think, it was back in the 50s. And then they took and they sold the property for housing and everything else, and then they sold it to the school board, which turned around and put a freaking elementary school right in the middle of everything. And then when everybody started getting sick and couldn't figure out why, and stuff started bubbling up out of the ground, then they started doing tests and everything else, and then finally people just started admitting that what happened with how the canal actually came about. Now, who's happy? Nobody's happy. Because your life just took a dramatic change. I mean, it changed that. I mean, that changes everybody's lives. But the protests, oh, they were fun. You'd be walking around yelling and screaming. And not really knowing exactly what you're yelling and screaming about, but everybody else is, so it was fun. But when you went to the meetings, it was a whole different thing. These people wouldn't answer your questions. They would talk around everything. And I remember standing in the back of one of the meetings yelling at them, answer the damn questions. Quit talking around them. Answer their I remember that like it was yesterday. You know what? Why are you answering the No, you're not answering the questions. You're talking around them. So what they ended up doing is they took and bought up all the houses that was 1, 2, 3 city blocks around the elementary school and put a big fence around them. Bought all them up. Those people all moved and everything else. Then it took a while from the buy up everybody else's before. I mean, this place is nothing but a ghost town now.
How old were you when you're participating in these meetings or in protesting, and where were they being held?
Most of them were being held at the elementary school, and I was 15. When all this started, I was 15. I think, if I ain't mistaken, we moved a year later. That was 16.
Did any of your neighbors move because of the Love Canal?
Everybody moved because of the Love Canal. Everybody went their own different directions. I don't know where half of them. Most of them stayed in Niagara Falls, just a different area. A lot of them moved out of there to different states.
So how or did the Love Canal impact you and your family?
That's a good question because it was life-changing, really. When you pick up and you move, and you leave everything behind that you know, it's dramatic. But it also turns out to be a good thing because if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be where I am today with 2 loving daughters and a beautiful wife and what we have now. It all happens for a reason, but it's traumatic. You leave everything behind. You leave your friends, your family. Everything you know is just gone. And for reasons that you can't control. And if that was the case, I wouldn't. My nieces and nephews and everything, they wouldn't be here. Not at all. I wouldn't be sitting here doing this.
When did your family move and why?
My family moved when I was 16. My memory's not as sharp as I thought it was. I can't remember that year. What year was that? I'm thinking 79, I believe.
And why?
Because of the Love Canal. They finally bought our house. So we moved up here. Me and my dad moved first. And my mom and the rest of the siblings, they all come up after us. But me and my dad come down to find work and get a place for everybody to live.
Where did you move to?
We moved to Manassas, Virginia. Not too far from my uncle who lived in Dale City, was only a few miles. But when we first moved up, we lived with my uncle for a while.
Why here?
Because that's where my uncle was at. And he gave my dad a job.
How did you feel about moving?
I wasn't too happy, but I was excited at the same time because it was all going to be something new. Because we needed someplace else to go. But didn't want to because you're leaving everybody behind, but excited, like I said, because it's all new.
How would you compare your new home and school to the old?
Oh my God. Schools behind. I had so many credits in New York that when I moved to Virginia, I did not have to take math. I did not have to take science. I did not have to take English. I had to take courses that thought I needed because I had too many credits. And the credits that they said I didn't have to take in school here, math, science, English, that's the stuff I needed. But I was grateful I didn't have to take them because I sucked at them. So, Virginia schools are behind New York schools. At that point in time, I don't know how they are now.
What was the name of the school?
The one in Virginia, Osborne Park Senior High School.
How
Not
would,
to be confused with Osborne High. Because they're two different schools.
how would you compare your new home to the old?
It sucked. It really did. The house we left was had 3 levels. Like I said, it had the basement, the upstairs, and then the bedrooms upstairs. The house we moved into was a one rundown rambler house, and it was literally run down. More property, more acres, but we never did put a garden in down there like we did. We did put a garden in Virginia. I mean in New York. Damn, vegetables grew pretty good too. Not a lot of them. It wasn't that big a garden. But damn, thinking about eating all those chemicals, it didn't affect me. Well, some people say it might. But yeah, we did. We had a garden in New York, but we never had one in Virginia.
How was, or if your life was different after the move, how?
Well, I don't know how, because I wouldn't have known how it was going to be there. Like I said, we moved, everything changed. I don't know how it was going to be when I can't tell you.
Who were your friends when you moved to Virginia?
Huh. They're all girls. Oh. Well, when we first got here, we didn't have any friends. We had no friends. I remember when we lived in New York, we grew up on the street corners, basically. We ran the streets, we played in the streets, we would hang out on the street corners and stuff like that. And I remember back in New York, I was delivering papers one time, and my friends, so-called friends, wanted to steal my paper money. Well, that wasn't going over too good with my dad. So my dad had one eye. Was put out in a car accident and had a cane. This was not too far after his accident. Well, he gets his cane, he gets me, he gets my brother, he gets my uncle, and one of the neighbor people, his name was Rock. And we walked, no, Rock didn't show up. Rock didn't go with us. But we walked down to the street corner, and the ones that wanted to steal my paper money, they were standing on the street corner. And we walked right on by them, and they had something to say. We went to the other street corner and stood. My dad's like, all right, let's go back. We get going back, and one of the girls said something. And she started to fight with me. I ended up getting in a fight with her. I kicked her ass. But then she accused my dad of beating her in the face with the stick while the cops show up. Now I'm in the cop car. And here comes Rock down to calm things down. And they're over there talking and everything else. And I get out of the cop car and I took off. I went home. I tried to, but Rock got me and put me in his car. But yeah, my friends were also my enemies there. Now when I moved here, we were bullied a lot. That's why I'm saying this. While we were in New York. Well, we get on the school bus. And it was the right school bus, but the boys on the school bus are like, no, this ain't your bus, you need to get off. So we get off, find out it was our bus. So the next morning, we get on the bus, and one of them sucker punched me. And I went through that whole day feeling like crap because I put up with the same stuff that we put up with in New York. So we went to school the next day, and the boy that sucker punched me today was Mark Geisler. And this was like the 3rd day of school. And he was a big bully and everything else. And he hung around with 3 or 4 other ones. And I went around the whole school telling everybody, y'all see Mark Geisler, you tell him Bobby Greene is looking for him. And he's going to whip his ass. All day long, telling everybody, you see him. That boy come and apologized to me. And we had no more trouble after that. So as far as friends, most of my friends were girls. And we'll leave it there.
Have you been back to New York since you moved, and how did it make you feel?
Oh my God. Me and my daughter went back to New York 2 years ago. And everything is gone. I mean, the houses are gone, bulldozed over, burned down, or whatever. I mean, it's a big ghost town. The field that we played in out back and ice skated on and built forts in. And, I mean, it's still there, but it's filled in somewhat. But just to go back and the mall that we used to go to, it's empty. I mean, it's dead. There's nothing in that area. There's no houses. Now, I understand they're starting to rebuild houses and sell that property around there again. But it's a ghost town. And just to go back and just drive down the street as slow as you can, reminiscing and telling my daughter about what happened and what on there, it hurt.
2018 was the 40th anniversary of Love Canal. Did you know or participate in any type of commemoration?
No. I want nothing to do with it no more. Just to go back and see what happened to it and everything else, and just what you left, what you lost, and how your life changed. I don't need to rehash that. This hurts. Just doing this hurt. It's fun, but it also hurts.
Did you know that it had been considered putting an educational center on that property? And how does that make you feel?
I don't think they should put anything on that property. What they've done is they've just bulldozed all the houses, put more dirt on top of it, and just built it up. I mean, what's going to keep it from just keeping coming up? No, to me, nothing should be put on that property. You want to put an educational center, put it outside somewhere.
How would you compare your childhood to your children's?
Different, completely different. We grew up residential. My kids are growing up in the country. You can walk to your friend's house. You can ride your bike down the street to your friend's house. Living in the country, it's hard to even have friends because they're not that close. Which makes it harder on my girls because the whole time they're growing up, it's like, well, we have no friends. We have no friends. Well, you have friends in school. Yeah, but you can't go just walk across the street to see them. You know, so it's a lot different. It's a lot harder living in the country compared to residential.
Do you know who Lois Gibbs is, or do you have any memories of her?
Mrs. Gibbs was a hellion. She was in charge of the Homeowners Association when the Love Canal came about. They don't remember a lot except for she made a lot of noise at the protest and at the meetings and stuff. I'd have to go back and look and read a few things in order to remember a lot. But yeah, I definitely know who she is. And she was a hellion. And I believe she actually got things done.
What would you say is your favorite childhood memory?
Playing in that field out back with my brother. God rest his soul. We played in that damn swamp. We built forts in that swamp. It was me and him, cowboys and Indians. Right there. I mean, growing up in New York, that part of it, that was my fondest.
Is there anything that you would like to add?
I'm sure there is, but I can't really think offhand. But I'm glad it happened. Because, like I said, I don't know what would have happened. I mean, I could have ended up with Elizabeth Coyle, who was my first childhood sweetheart. I don't think she actually knows that. I think she might have an idea. But it didn't. I mean, everything happens for a reason, and people end up where God wants them to be. If it wasn't for that happening, like I said, I wouldn't have the family I have now, the nieces, the nephews, the friends I have. So yeah, everything happens for a reason. To me, it was a good reason. It was a good thing. So that's it.